Hello, Tanyusha. I guess it's not common to write letters on the internet, and I'm afraid I might come across as old-fashioned, but our internet connection here is poor, and I can only send you this letter if Lizaveta drives me to a spot where it works. Well, I mean, the internet works. So, this letter might turn out long and outdated, but I hope you'll find it interesting. I've been working on it for a long time, a few days, and I just finished it now. I was never a fan of the epistolary genre, but first, there was a diary that I'm still keeping, by the way, and now there's this letter. They say people don't change, but I have, even if just a little, in my old age. How are you all doing? How's Dennis? How's Dima? Is everything all right? We're having a decent rest here. There are some interesting events happening, but I'll tell you about them later, once I sort things out. I'm doing as you taught me, taking photos, saving them on my laptop if something interesting happens, and making notes. But those events can wait. This letter is about something else. Remember how we talked about mysticism after our adventures with the roller coaster that they dismantled a month ago? My internet connection kept dropping, so I couldn't properly tell you everything. Now, I've decided to do it in this letter. Tanyusha, I never believed in mysticism, curses, and all that nonsense. But there's something else that I do believe in. Something that, as it seems to me, isn't mysticism, but rather something real, coexisting with us in this world. It's either so rare that we don't notice it, or it's so strange that we can't understand what we're seeing. And that creature under the roller coaster, it was there, you saw it, and we all know it was real, and it even ate meat if you threw it. I've been thinking about it for a long time. And I've come to the conclusion that things with it weren't quite right. It was, as you might say, one of those rare things that we can't always understand because we're not used to seeing or comprehending them. So, what I wanted to write about. How do I even approach this topic? I'm not sure. Remember a couple of years ago, they tried to force this dam renovation project on our homes? Our local deputy was running around our yards, Yuri, agitating and convincing us, promising us untold riches if we agreed and threatening us with divine retribution if we refused. These hired scoundrels were also going door to door, manipulating people. We had gatherings where some even came to blows. And then, all of a sudden, it stopped. Yuri quieted down, the provocateurs disappeared somewhere, and the people made some noise for a little while, but then calmed down and went back home. They even took us out of the program, and they didn't bother us anymore. Do you know why? I asked Dima about it, and he started talking about how the lawyers worked hard, and our houses were good, so they let us go. No, Tanyusha, it's not about lawyers or houses. They won't help when someone really wants to get a grip on something serious. They'll break and evict, and you know what else they'll do. It's something completely different here. You didn't understand, and neither did Dima. Many others haven't understood either. But this parasite, Urets, understood immediately and promptly put the brakes on all their activities. Do you know why? Because he's one of us, a Moscow native. An old-time Moscow native, I'd say. He's from our district, his parents were local, and he's been here from a young age, so he knows what's going on. I know too, but, Tanyusha, I'm good at keeping quiet, and I don't spill the beans to anyone. We became friends, so I decided to tell you because you're in your second generation living in Moscow, and when Dennis grows up, he'll be in the third generation, meaning he'll be a true Moscow native, so it's better for him to know about these things, if not necessary, then advisable. So, why did Urets suddenly halt his activities and pull his provocateurs out in one go? He spotted the fingers. More precisely, the fingerling. I noticed her too and immediately stayed as far away as possible because you better not stand in the way of such people on the road, and you shouldn't even make eye contact with them, even with good intentions. At first glance, the fingers seem like ordinary people. She looked like an average middle-aged woman, just like millions of others. Remember when we used to gather at the playground when Yurka came in his fancy car, wearing shiny shoes and a blue suit? What's with them and blue suits? I don't get it. It used to be high school students who wore similar suits, and now the big shots strut around in them. It would be amusing to see, I'm sure. So, Uretz was standing in the middle of the crowd, and his provocateurs, both men and women, were yelling at the people, egging them on, almost provoking fights. And then, one big guy, fat and loud, started shouting at this woman, but she just stood there, unmoving, looking straight at him, showing no emotions whatsoever. She stood there like a log with vacant eyes. He gestured wildly, and she didn't react at all, as if he didn't exist in front of her, despite this bulky man with a square jaw and bloodshot eyes, as if he had been drinking for a week, going on and on. Maybe he was drinking, who knows? I managed to slip closer through the crowd and looked at her too. Oh, Tanyusha, thank goodness you weren't there. Her gaze was like that of a dead fish, empty, devoid of life. He lunged at her, and she didn't even flinch. That's when Uretz noticed. He looked at this woman, swallowed as if choking, then grabbed the guy by the hand, yelled that the meeting was over, and dragged him back to his car. The others dispersed, and even the organizers disappeared. The next day, there was nobody there, and later they removed us from the program altogether, leaving us in peace. It's a good thing. It's good. Uretz recognized the fingers immediately. It wasn't his first encounter with them, I think he had met them before. He recognized them and decided to disappear because when you see one finger, it's manageable, you can go back and forth, but if 2 or 3 show up, it's over. Write letters to the sports lottery or wherever you can report such things. You know how it goes sometimes, right? They build a house, it's perfect, in an ideal location, warm, modern, comfortable. People move in, and then all hell breaks loose. People start throwing themselves out of windows in the fall and spring. Cancer suddenly strikes several people at once. Other disasters happen, there are so many of them, but the main thing is one. Some places just don't want anyone living there, even if it's the best place. We have a tower near the metro. My friend Lida used to live there. She's dead now. She told me a lot about the events in their building. She moved out the same year she got cancer and barely survived. A few years later, her daughter got the same disease and became disabled at 18. She never had children or a normal family, lived with her mother until her death, and then she moved somewhere else. I don't even know if she's still alive. Only on Lida's floor, there were 2 serious accidents among residents. Children died in both cases. There was 1 suicide, a guy jumped out of a window, and 3 cases of cancer. That's just 1 floor. Worse things happened on the other floors, everything was there. And the non-drinkers started drinking within a year, the non-smokers burned in their beds, acting as if they smoked and putting out cigarettes under their pillows. They hanged themselves and ended up in prison. Some even went berserk for no apparent reason, fighting each other like madmen. I'll tell you about this building later. I saw how they were building it and what it was connected with. I remember it perfectly. No, sometimes they still build in such places, hospitals, or something else. The rest is clear. In hospitals, healthy people die, and in factories, if they build one, various accidents happen, and so on. There are too many to list. People involved in construction have known about such things in the past. They respected the city's will and understood what could be done and what couldn't. If you go further back, you see an empty lot in a good location. Or a parking lot where you could fit 3 buildings. But no! For decades, the place remains empty, or at most, private cars slowly start parking there, but nothing more. Why? Because it's not allowed. Well, you can't build here, and that's it. It's been a long-known fact, but apparently not everyone knows it.